Another one of these 8 controllables that we're going to dive into today is nutrition. Now, there's really only 4 things in life that if we don't have them, we'll die. I talk about it in sleep. I talk about it in hydration. I talk about it air, oxygen. But the fourth one is nutrition. And so often we think that just eating food is what we need to be alive. But rather, just like with sleep, it's quality, not quantity. It's the exact same thing with food. It's quality, not quantity. And when we come back to it, and I'm just going to share my screen here as I've done with all of these different recordings here, is it comes down to how does it impact HRV? Well, when we eat food, it causes inflammation in our gut, whether we like it or not. And certain things that we eat are going to cause more inflammation than others. There's things called probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics. How does our body handle fats, proteins, carbohydrates? What micronutrients are we deficient in? And it can get very convoluted very quickly if we didn't have a structure and we don't have a system in which is in place. If you go and you watch the sleep recording that we talk about, we have a system to create a night routine to optimize the sleep. And the biggest one that's there is when we're eating 3 hours before bed, 3 hours before our nighttime, we have no more major meals. Why? It allows for proper digestion and proper processing of the food that's in the system to ultimately happen, which again takes stress off the body. And what is HRV? How our body handles stress accumulation. And if we continue to eat food that causes inflammation, if we continue to eat food that our body has a hard time digesting, if we continue to lack in micronutrients, chronic hunger is created by chronic micronutrient deficiency. That's a key concept here, guys. Chronic hunger is a key concept in chronic micronutrient deficiency, and it's a sign. So as we go through this, we're going to be giving you guys basically a 3-2-1 protocol. It's the simplest way to go, but knowing that a lot of this comes back to our DNA results. And why do we pull DNA? Because we want to know what it means to you. How I process protein is different than the way you're going to process protein. If I'm vitamin A deficient, doesn't mean you're vitamin A deficient. And so once we have a real solid foundation of our DNA and what our body's requiring, we can then give it exactly what it needs. It's literally a blueprint. Okay. But until that point, we're going to run with these 3 things. We go back to this word of consistency. Okay. Now, how should we eat? Literally, sun up to sundown. What does that allow us to do? It allows us to have an 8 to 12 hour fasting window. That doesn't mean that we're fasting during the day and driving this up higher. It means that when we wake up, and we'll go back to the example that I used within when we were sleeping in our sleep routine, in the sleep little educational piece that we have here. That person that we showed was waking up at 6 a.m. and going to bed at 10:30 p.m. Now, if we use this concept, that's a 7.5 hour fast. Now, let's say that person eats at 7:30 or 8 a.m. That's breakfast. Right there, that's your 9-hour fast. And what that gives us when our body wakes up is it's not craving carbs, proteins, fats. It's craving nutrients, micronutrients. And so this goes back to the concept of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to ultimately learn. Now, that 9-hour fasting window is saying that we're eating at 10:30, but that's not the case because we stop eating at 7:30. So now 7:30 to 7:30, it's a 12-hour fasting window we have naturally built in by chronically being able to be consistent with our sleep time as well as our feeding time. Now, what does this feeding rule look like? 3, 2, 1, 0 rule. With consistency, as we've seen on the other page, as to when we eat, sun up to sundown, that is when we are eating. That is when we need to optimize our food. We're going to get 3 major meals throughout the day. Now, major meals, I don't mean gross amounts of food. I mean major meals in terms of serving size and what they consist of. 3 complete meals, okay? We're going to have 2 pieces of fruit. Fruit is not bad, no matter what anybody says. If they ever tell you that, hey, fruit is bad because of the sugar content, run the other way, because it's the furthest thing from the truth. 1 is a big salad every day, and that's going to be one of your major meals. And 0 serving sizes over what's needed. Okay, and we're going to dive into that in a second. So first, let's address the 3 major meals. So this is going to be what for most people is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, what I want these major meals to consist of is 1 serving of each: protein, carbs, fats, and veggies. Now, how do we do that at breakfast? It could be an egg with a piece of toast, with some avocado, and some spinach and mushrooms in it. It could be, change color here so you know when we're highlighting. It could be almond milk with a protein powder in it, with some granola that also has your fats, and then a little bit of a small spinach salad on the side. It could be anything across the board there. So you can make it, but it has to be within that single serving size. Every single one of these major meals only has 1 serving of each. Okay, that is key. Your 2 pieces of fruit. Your 2 pieces of fruit are your snacks. Mid-morning, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, whenever. But making sure you're getting 2 pieces of fruit. What type of fruit, you ask? I don't care. Apples, pears, bananas, grapes, watermelon, melon, cantaloupe, nectarines, peaches, plums, pineapple, doesn't matter. But making sure that we get 2 of those in a day. And then 1 big salad. Run it through the garden. Romaine lettuce, spinach, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, you name it. Get it in there, get it on it. And then have a serving of protein on there if you want to. Because again, remember that big salad, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We want 1 of each, okay? And then we come into 0 serving sizes. So what is a serving size? Well, for protein, carbs, fats, and veggies, it's all different. But guess what? You bring the measuring device with you everywhere because it's our hand. So for veggies, it's the size of our fist, okay? That's 1 serving size. For fats, it's the size of our thumb. For carbs, it's a cupped hand, leveled off, not a lot. A cupped hand. And protein, size of our palm. So going back to what we talked about before, is at each one of these major meals, that is what the major meal consists of, is 1 portion of protein, carbs, fats, and veggies. Now, it's not a lot. And we're going to be like, oh my goodness, how am I going to stay full? When you're eating 1 serving 3 times a day, plus 2 pieces of fruit and your big salad, and you're making sure you're getting that water intake done throughout your day, half your body weight in ounces, be sure to go watch the hydration tutorial. You are going to notice that you are satiated, that you no longer have these up and down energy spikes, but rather you have a constant flow of energy, okay? And you're operating in something that looks like this rather than with the big waves. And the big waves are very hard on the body. So the closer to this we are, the better. Now, what does this look like in summary in building this out? So, number one thing we want to do is consistency. Sun up, sun down. We know that we're sleeping at 10:30 at night. We know that there's no major food after 7:30. That's where it stops. We wake up at 6 a.m. That's when our window opens. So literally, we have a built-in window of 11 hours of fasting. Okay. In between this, we're going to have breakfast. We're going to have lunch. We're going to have dinner. All that consist of one serving of each: protein, carbs, fats, and veggies. Okay. In here, we have our piece of fruit. In here, we have our piece of fruit. And now, is it either lunch or is it dinner? That's our big salad. We've hit our 3, 2, 1, 0 rule. Check, 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 and check. We've hit our consistency, check, because we're eating between these window times. And now I guarantee you, you're going to notice an increase in that HRV because you're having constant energy flow. You're not going up and down. You're not cycling. And the way that we dial this up and then we dial this routine up is through that DNA test. Because now we can come back and we say, oh, in accordance to this, not only are we having protein, carbohydrates, and fats, but what type of protein is optimal for you? Do we need to stay away from red meat? Do we need to minimize the gluten we take in? Do we need to back off the lactose? Do we need to make sure we're having more vegetables that are focused in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D? Those are things that we can actually start to look at and understand and come back to, again, optimizing us. Because not only are we what we eat, but we are what we eat eats, if that makes sense. So we are what the chickens eat. We are what the plants eat. So knowing what we need from a DNA standpoint will guide us as to what direction we need to go. So with that, guys, 3, 2, 1, 0 rule. Implement that along with the consistency of eating during sun up to sundown with that 3-hour time frame prior to our bed slot. I guarantee you we'll have a happier gut, we'll have a flatter gut, and ultimately our HRV will increase. Go on it.